MemoMap today is about the membrane potential, and we are going to discuss first the two important potential. Thereafter, we are going to talk about the channels and pumps responsible for the change in the membrane permeability. And finally, we are going to discuss the nerve potential. Talk about the first point, which are the two very important potential, the diffusion potential for the ions and the equilibrium potential. First, the diffusion potential. It means that the ion love to move from the area of a high concentration to the area of a low concentration if the membrane is permeable. But for the equilibrium potential, as the ion move, it carry the electrical charge with them. So the positive ion leave the cell and leave behind a negative charge with electrical force that stop the further diffusions of the ion. Let's talk about the potassium as an example. Inside the cell, the potassium is higher than outside the cell, so if the membrane become more permeable to the potassium, potassium diffuse out of cell. But as the potassium leave behind negative charge inside the cell, and this charge will stop the further diffusions of the potassium. How we can estimating the equilibrium potential? We have two type of equation, the Nernst equation that calculate the potential for one single ion, and Goldman, and this one specific for multiple ions. The most important sodium potassium chloride, and the potential here depend on the concentration gradient, the electrical charge, and the permeability of the membrane. We are talking about the pumps and channel that change the membrane permeability and change the membrane potential. First is the sodium-potassium pump, an active transport which push 3 sodium out and bring 2 potassium in, leaving the membrane negative inside. Second, the sodium-potassium leaky channel, and it allows the potassium to move outside the cell while the sodium move inside. However, the potassium permeability is 100 times more than that for the sodium, so it also keep inside the cell negative. And now the voltage gated channel, the voltage gate sodium channel, which has two gates, an outer activating gate and inner inactive gate, and it's present in 3 states. In resting or during the rest, the activation gate closed while the inactive gate open. Activation of this channel would result in both gates are open so the sodium move in. Inactivation of this gate, the inactive gate closed while the active gate open so the sodium flow stop. When this channel is activated, it keeps the movement of sodium into the cell so the potential become positive. Finally, the voltage gate potassium channel, and when it's activated, it allows the movement of the potassium outside the cell, keeping the potential negative. So, we have potassium sodium pump, leak channel, and the voltage gate potassium channel is responsible for the changing of membrane potential to negative, while the voltage gate sodium channel is responsible for changing the potential to positive. Sodium potassium pump and leaky channel is responsible for maintaining of resting membrane potential, while the voltage gate sodium is responsible for initiation of action potential, and the potassium is voltage gate channel is responsible for the ending of the action potential, which we are going to talk about next. Now let's talk about the membrane or nerve potential, which is classified into resting membrane potential, action potential, and local potential. Resting membrane potential occur during the rest with no stimuli, no impulses. The potential is a negative inside the nerve. The value depending on the type of the nerve. With some large nerves, it could reach to minus 90 millivolt, and others could reach to minus 70 millivolt. What cause this negativity, or what maintains this negativity? Sodium potassium pump and potassium leak channels. Now talking about the action potential, which occur with the suprathreshold or threshold stimuli, which brings the potential to this negative value, either minus 70 or minus 50 millivolt, and this will activating the sodium channels, resulting in the depolarization. So with the depolarization, when the threshold is reached, the voltage gate open and the sodium rush in,
and this will cause a positive feedback loop which open more and more sodium channel till all sodium channel are open. So the value of the depolarization could reach only to zero in CNS and some neuron, or overshoot up to positive 30 or positive 35 millivolt in some neuron. Thereafter, repolarization occurs, so the sodium channel become inactive and potassium channels open and allow the potassium to move out. The membrane return back to the resting negative value, either minus 70 or minus 90. So the sodium cause depolarization, potassium cause repolarizations, and action potential is propagated. But we have two types of propagation: local circuit in unmyelinated, and this propagation is slow, continuous, while the saltatory conduction it occur in myelinated, it's faster, and the impulse jump from one node of Ranvier to another node of Ranvier. Finally, the local potential. This occur in a sub-threshold stimuli with in which the stimuli not strong enough to open all the sodium channel or enough amount of the sodium channels. So the negativity decrease but not enough to create an action potential, and this type of potential is not propagated. That's that's today our memo map. It's about membrane potential. First, we talked about the opposing forces, the diffusion potential and the equilibrium potential. The second, we talked about the key player that change the membrane permeability, the sodium potassium pump, the potassium leak channel, the voltage gate sodium channel, and the voltage gate potassium channel. Finally, we discussed three types of nerve potential: the resting membrane potential, all or non-action potential, and finally the local potential. That was your memo for today. See you next episode.